How's it going? And welcome to another episode of the One Last Cast podcast. My name is Jonathan, and as always, we have Merriel Solesky here. Say hi, Merrill.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome to 2025. Happy New Year's and Merry Christmas. And
Oh, sorry about that. There we go. Always
again,
technical difficulties, right?
again, Merrill.
Yeah.
Um, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to you, Merrill. I know we haven't been we've been kind of on and off for the last couple of actually probably about the last couple of months. So it's good to talk to you again. How you been?
I've been pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, I've been doing pretty good. Not fishing as much as I like, but it's fun. Business has picked up a little bit, so you
Hey, that
know.
that that's always good. But the not fishing part, that's not so good. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll probably get into that with our topic for this episode of our New Year resolutions and what we're trying to plan out for this month. But before I do, let me give a shout out to some of our sponsors, Knock and Tail Lures. If you're looking for a soft plastic that swims on the fall, has a rattle in the tail, just drives fish crazy, go to knockandtaillures.com and pick out some of your favorite colors. Been especially liking the 5-inch versions, just the big size, especially now that we're in full winter form and targeting those big trout. So the bigger profile works wonders. Also, Dirty South Kayak Anglers. If you're looking for a Facebook group to talk fishing and kayaking up and down the Texas coast, search DSKA or Dirty South Kayak Anglers on Facebook. Also, 4A Printing. If you need any sort of gear, such as towels, some shirts or buffs or anything like that, uh, Aaron can hook you up with those. So look up 4A Printing on Facebook as well, and then just reach out to him, and he'll get you taken care of. And of course, Brittany Solesky, Merrill's lovely wife. If you're looking for real estate here in Houston, either commercial or residential, or you can reach her at 281-740-0498 or brittanysolesky at gmail.com, and she'll get you taken care of and of whatever real estate you're looking for. Um, so yeah, I know this episode we were kind of looking into talking about our resolutions for 2025. I kind of want I wanted I didn't prepare as much as I wanted to. I just was trying to figure out what our resolutions were from 2024. Do you happen to remember what that was for
Yeah,
you?
I remember exactly what it was. Do you want me to share it?
Yeah, for
Oh,
fishing.
okay. No, I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
teasing. I'm just teasing. No, I don't remember. I'm just kidding. Man, I don't remember
uh,
anything these days. I mean, I the funny thing is, like, I can remember memories fishing. Like, it's crazy. But you asked me to remember what happened yesterday. I'm like, oh man. But I know about this spot in West Bay though.
No, I got you, and mine's a little bit fuzzy, but I do recall for me one of the resolutions that I had for 2024 was to really focus and get into that winter trout scene. It kind of happened, uh, and it actually more so kind of started happening now. I went out today, and it was just I got out there. I dropped off the kiddo, hopped out there, and it was my first instinct was like today is the perfect day for big trout. It's like everything lined up. You had that cold front that just came through. Its air temperatures were still in the upper 30s, low 40s. The water temps though haven't gotten that low yet. Where I was looking at between 55 to 60 roughly, um, which is pretty cold, but not like freezing cold. And I figured that the big trout, even with the low tides, they'll be kind of sunning themselves off that kind of mud ledges, the mud shell ledges. And I got out there, and that's what the first spot that I hit was like I there's potential for big trout here, so I just went real slow, worked it, worked it slow, and I popped a 6 pounder. I thought it was a red at first, like I hit and it started taking off, and I didn't even feel the hit; it just started taking off. Set the hook, and it started peeling drag. Um, and but yeah, I had 2 hits besides I had one more hit after that that felt solid. I just didn't get it. I didn't get it pinned. Uh, but after that, I was like, okay, I kind of came and did what I wanted to do. I got that big trout. So let's go look for. the numbers, and I kind of scoped out. It is one of those things with the way that the weather is, especially post front, uh, low tide. Kind of one of those things. Is what's going to happen is that you're either going to go for that one or two bite, or you're going to get nothing. Or if you're going to go for numbers, you're going to find nothing, or you're going to find all of them in one spot because that's kind of they're going to stack up. Um, so yeah, I worked a lot, and I after that I kind of worked a little bit quicker, was coming more water. Um, a lot of the usual places where I would find fish just weren't there. Um, so then I went to I went somewhere where it had a little bit deeper drop off, and they were just stacked up right there. You've hit the ledge, hop it off, and you just see your line just go down, and then just it would just jump or it'd move. Um, Sometimes just move like it just move like a couple inches, like you just go to the side like that, and you set the hook, and they weren't big, like 16, 17 inch trout. They're all solid and fat. Um, yeah, but it was just a great time out there. And after I got tired of that, I tried to go find more trout, some of the bigger trout again, and ended with the flounder. But yeah, it was a good time out there.
Did you take any home to eat?
No, no,
Okay.
I didn't. I strung up the flounder because I was gonna give it to my parents, and then I realized I didn't have a cooler with me because I usually don't keep fish. So
Yeah.
I had there were some people fishing from shore, and I just gave it to them, and they were grateful. So
Good.
yeah, but
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just saying that I did. I know kind of our main topic is to talk about New Year's resolution, but I did want to talk about something I found interesting um, here. Well, two things really. Going back to what I was saying. So whenever conditions are tough, and I consider today pretty tough conditions with post front, low tides. Uh, there was some tidal movement, which was good, but there are days like this whenever you have it where you can cover so much water and not get a single hit, and then you finally find them in like this little pocket, and it's just like one after another. uh you know how do and this is a question for you. Whenever you have days like that where there's going to be like, if you're looking for numbers and you're trying to find them stacked up, how do you keep yourself going? Because it's like you're working so much water, and I work so much water where there's usually fish, and then it's just nothing, 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 nothing. Finally find them.
Yeah.
But I definitely at some point are like, man, this is what am I doing? I'm
Right. Right.
fishing. I'm just covering so much water and there's nothing.
What? So you saying what motivates me?
Yeah. What motivates you to keep going?
Man, so like that's a good point, right? Because I used to be like, man, I gotta find them. I gotta find them. Now, like when I go fishing, it's just like I actually love and enjoy what I'm doing. So sometimes at times it's just peeling away, and I'm just working the spot. But like I don't put no pressure on myself to to catch fish or not, to not catch fish. And if I find them, great. I try to do a set time, but sometimes I'll extend that time. I never really cut a fishing trip short. So, but for the most part, I'm just having a good time. I'm out there, and I put no pressure on myself uh, to find them. And if I do find them, great. If I don't, it's not a big deal. I'm still out there um, enjoying what I do and loving what I do. But I was going to say that I do remember my New Year's resolution. So my New Year's resolution last year was to fish more outside of our
Oh,
coast and fish
you're
different coast.
yeah, yeah. That's ringing a bell now.
Yeah, yeah. So it came to me, right? So, but we'll get into what it is this year. But yeah, so I mean, that's what keeps me going. Um, I'm not like like it's tournament style fishing. It's just more of like just filling the area out and thinking maybe they'll be here. And it's odd because it's like for the most part, you kind of know certain areas that they're going to be in because you've been on the water enough times. And mostly all the areas that I fish here in our bay system, I fished them before. So it's kind of like, hey, I'm gonna see if they're here. I'm gonna see if they're there. And 9 out of 10 times I find them. So just because just being on the water so many times that it's paid off, like all that time on the water has paid off. So like when I don't consider fishing, but like tonight I'll go to some 3 or 4 spots and I'll take pictures. I'll catch trout just because I fish this area so much that I can just walk up to spots and cast and catch them. And kind of same concept when I'm fishing areas. I kind of know the area already and the temperatures and how it affects the fish. It helps me hone in on where they could be. So
Yeah, and we have a commenter on YouTube, Rockies. Like every fishing experience makes the next one even better, and that's absolutely true.
yes,
Yeah, every trip, the only bad trip is one you don't learn from.
yeah,
So every single trip, you should be learning something new and just adding it to your repertoire. And yeah, today was just like I hit every single zone. Like, there should be fish here. Okay, there's not fish here. There should be fish here. There's not a fish here. Just keep going, keep going.
right.
Um, and then it was kind of like, again, like putting that puzzle piece to get all the puzzle pieces together. And then it was just, okay, they're probably deeper. They're just obviously they're maybe not exactly right here. So I kind of did a 180 and just try to find somewhere a little bit new. And I think one another thing that I'm thinking about right now is like in situations like that, it definitely helps to have a motor. I know that if you talk to me probably 3, 4, or 5 years ago, I would have been like, a motor is it's too much.
Y'all
But
laughed at me. Y'all laughed at me when I said that. Y'all like, you really think so, Merrill? I was like, it is the future, guys. Motors are the future.
um, but it was just that now it's easier. I don't have to expend as much energy going around and looking covering that water, which helps me stay in the game longer. Which that's what my goal is, just stay in the game longer. Um, but following up with that to the my second point that I wanted to talk about, as much yeah, I love knock and tail lures. They're great. They have their place and everything like that in my box. I always throw them. Actually, the first thing I always throw for the soft plastic. Um, I did want to say today that it those profiles matter. Um, so when I was out there and I started throwing it, the past few winter trips, or I say winter, the past few trips I've done, I've gone over towards instead of the paddle tails, to straight tails, just because they have that slimmer profile. Um, they're a lot more subtle. The darting action instead of the paddle tail
Right.
action. Um, and I think that that made all the difference today. So I think understanding that, the main reason why I switched over is because again, you have post frontal conditions, you have low water, um, and I was using the big, the bigger, 4 inch saltwater slash bass assassins, um, and I think it made a difference just being a little bit more, finesse. That's the word I was looking for. More
Yeah.
finesse instead of the loud in your face paddle tail.
Right.
So I just be versatile, have different things in your box, and whenever you're out there, just read the situation and just go with your gut. So today my gut was like, I should probably not be throwing the paddle tail. I did catch a fish on it, but I caught definitely more fish on the straight tail than the paddle tail.
Uh, yeah, man, I'm like fat boy style, man. Curtis made a comment. Like, I gotta address this, dude. That wasn't even a trolling motor. I don't know what you had on that kayak. It was like a full blown
It
like
was a mo-
motor.
it was a trolling motor.
Man, no, the Curtis when I was fishing and I saw Curtis out there, he had this big old motor on his kayak, and it was loud as heck because the gas was just like it was a gas motor. It's like bah, 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 bah. I was like, "Geez, that was something else you had on your boat, Curtis. Definitely not a battery operated trolling motor. Um, anyways, um, yeah. So like I'm more of like a fat boy kind of guy. Yeah, I think I like throwing the fat boy a little bit. That or if they're not hitting the fat boy, if I feel and if I can't get them, I'll go down the size on the what is it called, the smaller one, the smaller profile. There's a
Just the
name for
regular
it.
or like the soft dine?
Soft dine. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, the soft dine. So those are the two that I like throwing. That and a yeah, those are the ones I like throwing. Um, I know I fished down south and with Daniel Land, and he threw these big old like what do you call them? Gamblers.
Mm,
They still sell them, right? The
yeah.
gamblers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not a lot of people use them. I actually used them up here, and they worked pretty good up here too. Um, and then I fished with Chad Peterick, and he was using down south. I was using knocking tails. Me and I think Nick were throwing knocking tails. But the big trout, the 30 incher that I caught, was on that on a Fat Boy, and it
Yeah.
was like a I forgot the name. They call it like a blow, not a blow pop. It's like a. It looks like the original mullet color that Mr. Brown used to make, but it has more glitter and then like a softer red tone on the
Mm,
belly. But to me, I call it a mullet color because it's close to it. You know.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I did throw the fat boy a couple for probably about 10 minutes or so, and it was just the problem was really like the the wind was kind of kicking up a little bit, and I was just moving too fast to really get a good like. If I really wanted to, I should have just put a stakeout pole and just kind of just worked it real hard, um, yeah, instead of moving around. But I was just drifting because I wanted to cover water.
right,
Um,
right.
but but yeah, I think one of one of the key takeaways from that one was just be
Yeah,
have options, be versatile, trust your gut.
yeah. Well,
I know we like for us we've at the beginning of the show we always say great stuff about knocking tails and they're great lures, but they do have their time and place. So
yeah,
it's not always just the main thing that we throw. Um, so
yeah. I forgot. So that's a good question, right? Like, when would you use a fat boy versus another bait, right? Or a knocky tail versus another bait, like in the wintertime, like the way you were fishing, I probably wouldn't fish a fat boy. I don't think. I
yeah,
think
no,
I'd fit.
it's too
I'd fish.
difficult.
Yeah, yeah, because you're trying to cover that water column, and especially if you're coming down the drop off,
Yeah,
like, and if you're throwing like you'd have to have like a fast sinking fat boy, but
yeah,
ideally, like, I want to fish anywhere from 4 feet and under a flat with maybe a little small gut in it. I would throw fat boy, right?
yeah. So basically, I only throw fat boys whenever I'm waiting, just because you're stationary, and it could be like I could be like on an 8 foot drop off in front of me, but that means I can work the 8 foot drop off really well instead of just floating over it, because now I can actually allow the fat boy to sink to the bottom and then work its way up. Whereas if if you're up on the kayak, you're kind of drifting over it, and by the time it hits the bottom, you're already like well past it,
Right.
and you're kind of like you're just pulling it along, so it's just coming up. So it's just yeah, the corkies, you kind of have to be on the stationary position um, to
I
make that work.
yeah, well, yeah. Um, that I like fishing like that though. The way you said, like when you're drifting, like I throw, like, so, like how
Yeah,
I'm fishing, right?
I guess also if you're drifting, but it's like you said, like a 3 foot flat or something like that.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
you can make that work because you
Yeah,
can.
correct, right, right,
Yeah,
right.
but where I'm fishing, you're looking at like 2 3 foot in front of you, and then it drops off to like 6 7 8, and
Yeah,
I'm trying to find those fish that are sitting on that 6 7 8 area.
right, right.
Um,
And then it drops off again.
yeah, then it drops. Yeah, no, it then drops off again. It goes, 6 7 8, and it stays 8 for a little bit, and it goes to 9 10 11 12.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and that's a whole other thing of just finding sometimes those ledges because sometimes they're up on that shallow part, and sometimes they're on that the deep ledge. So
so like, if you were positioning yourself, right? So I like the way you're describing it, like, right? But say if um you're describing it to somebody that doesn't fish drop offs. much or doesn't know, you know what I mean? They just know that, hey, there's a gut here.
Yeah.
What would you recommend, like positioning with current? Because those are the main two things when you're fishing in a kayak, especially for fishing. Or you could hold position if you have a pedal kayak, but just hypothetically, how would you position yourself and how would you cast up current versus down current?
Yeah.
and
Uh,
and what you're trying to accomplish, because I think most of those fish, some of them will be on the ledge, but some of them they like that drop off ledge like you said. So when you're presenting your bait, position and casting and current are very important things that they come natural to us now, but for people learning how to kayak fish, it's not so natural too.
yeah. I think the biggest thing, and this is the biggest reason why I recommend the pedal kayak. Um, the paddle kayaks, they have their uses, and they're great. And of course, if that's what it takes for you to get into the sport, absolutely get what get that paddle kayak. Um, but one of the main benefits of having that pedal kayak, I for any sort of ledge situation, whether it be like what I'm doing now, or it's like a gut, you're fishing Stanley We Pass, and you see those guts everywhere. I work parallel to the gut or the ledge or the drop off. Number one, the reason why I do that is because um, those fish are they tend to go towards one of those areas. If you think of a ledge, you have that flat on top, the ledge, and then usually it's another little ledge, and it just keeps going down for whatever the 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 contours are. Um, so if you catch one on top on the top ledge, then there's probably a few more there. So if you work parallel to it, so you work, just cast straight up. Also, you work. I like to work against the current, so I'm going into it. So the bait, whenever you're basically pulling the bait towards whatever naturally it's going. Um, uh, Sometimes it's not. It doesn't work out that way. Just however you're stationed, or the area how that works, but and if at all possible, you work with the current. But you work parallel to it because you can keep your bait in the strike zone longer. So, for example, if I'm sitting on the ledge and I think they're shallow, they're on top. So I'll cast up, and my bait for the most part is always going to be in that shallow part, and I can work it real hard. Okay, they're not there. Maybe on their ledge, so I can move over a little bit, and now I can work that ledge, and it's in the strike zone longer, and you just keep going like that. So,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Yep.
but
Some people like to punch, right? Like the whole, like they like to punch it, like punch the shoreline and bring it all the way down.
yeah,
But you're saying work more of the ledges,
yeah,
normalized.
yeah. So, but even if, like, for example, let's imagine this. You have a grass line, and then you have, like, a few feet where it's just a sand flat, and then it just drops. So yeah, I in any situation like that, I would always try to work parallel to that. If I'm looking for redfish, I would go up against the grass line and work parallel to that grass line. I'm casting up, just casting up. Or I probably won't be on the grass. I'll probably be, 10 feet off, but I'm still working that grass line. Um, and that's how I'm going to work it. But okay, so now I'm going to work that. I'm basically sitting in the middle of the flat, and I know that drop off's on the right of me. I'll just start casting in front of me to the right, so it can work that drop off. And that's really one of the uh, main reason why I recommend having a fish finder, or in this case, a depth finder under your kayak, because sometimes those ledges, they're not on that first ledge. It slopes off, and there's another flat that's about 4 or 5 foot, and then it drops off again. So you understand what's right there, and so you can be slightly off of it, but still work that the next ledge, and then the next drop off, and the next ledge. Um, and that it helps, or at least for me, it helps me visualize what when I'm actually working. But again, you're staying in that strike zone, you're staying in that area that you want to work. And then theoretically, if you find one fish, you can repeat that. Okay, I'm sitting in 3 foot of water, but I know there's that drop off is right there, and I just caught a fish. Let me work that this ledge more, and I'll catch another one. Or, hey, I caught a couple fish doing on fishing this ledge. I know there's another ledge, a few hundred yards that way, another drop off. let me go over there and see if maybe this is a pattern that I can replicate. Um, so it's important to kind of understand kind of everything that's going on, but also put yourself in a position for success. I know some people they'll be working. I there's there, I'm not going to say it, but there's a specific area I know that people fish completely wrong, at least for me, I think it's wrong, but they always just like they sit in the middle and they cast towards the shoreline and just work it, and they're just it's perpendicular, not parallel. They'll hit the shoreline and it just come out, and
Yeah.
they'll catch some fish like that, yes, but they're missing a lot more opportunities.
Yeah,
So
Scott can tell you this too. When we used to fish the causeway, or even way back when Mr. Guzman, the salty jighead dude, shout
yeah,
out to him. We were out at the C Dub, and he was like, "Man, how are you catching those bigger trout?" And it really was like how you position yourself and how you cast and how you work those pylons. Like, and that made a big difference on catching deep trout versus catching keeper trout.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I totally can relate to just one area you can produce different results. Some people weren't even catching anything. Um, it's just understanding what the fish are doing.
Yeah, and definitely there's some, I actually, Paul, I'm gonna sorry, I'm gonna call you out, but I took Paul out the other probably a week or two ago, just checking out this new area, um, and we got out there, and there's so much bait working up against rocks, um, and I was like, "There's probably fish right off the rocks right there." And I started working it, and it was just instant. You pull it off the rock, gets hammered, and just started catching trout. Um, and okay, Paul says all good. So yeah, and I think it was just a kind of a situation of um I don't know if Paul didn't know where the kind of the rock. It was dark. We were fishing it was dark. It was the middle of the night, not middle of the night, early morning. The sun hadn't come up yet, but there was a thick fog too. Um, and you kind of there was a fine line of like you cast too far into the rocks and you get stuck, or you cast too far off the rocks and it just you go you're too far off the rocks. And yeah, Paul says he caught a lot of rockfish that day. um, but understanding like I kind of understood because I fished the area before, not in a kayak but from a boat. Like I know there's that line where you're where the rocks kind of dropped off, and I kept hitting that, and if I got it just right, I got a trout. If I did a little too far back, I got hung up. But Paul kept getting a little bit hung up, and I'm pretty sure he lost a lot of jig heads that day. So, um, yeah, but just understanding what's in front of you and what you're targeting, and how the fish are reacting and behaving to what's going in front of you. I think that's important to understand whenever you're out there.
Yeah, for
So
sure. Yep, yep. So let's talk about our New Year's resolution.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
what are yours? Our fishing New Year's fishing resolutions for us fish heads out
I was
there.
gonna say like my resolution is to win the lottery and retire early,
Yeah,
but
and fish more. Right.
yeah,
My
fish
my
more.
end goal is always to fish more. That is
Yeah.
my always end goal. Like, why do you want to
Um,
retire? So I can fish more.
yeah, exactly.
Why am I working
So
hard right now? Is so I could fish more later.
yeah. Well, the
Okay.
main thing is you work to fish, so
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
but so my resolution this year, uh,
Hey, hold on. Thank you for joining us, Stacy. We've been praying for you and glad to see you join.
yeah, um, my I know my one of my resolutions from 2024 was to really focus on that winter bite. Um, I did that last uh I think it was a really prolonged winter going into spring, and I caught some really good fish during that. Um, and now my goal is to convert that over to finally like I'm gonna focus on trying to get my personal best, beat my personal best, 28 8 pounds or eight and a half. I don't know, 28 and 8. That's my PB. I really want to beat that. Um, and so actually one of the good things about today was that I was just it came together, and I'm like I'm happy about that. So I want to put together more opportunities like that for myself and make it work. So yeah, that's my goal.
To catch a bigger trout. I got
Yeah.
you. Mine is I want to fish with more guide fishermen. I feel like when I fish with more guide fishermen, I always pick up and learn something from them, and then I get to share it with you guys. So I actually have a fishing trip with Blackwell, Colton Blackwell,
Ooh.
big time trout fisherman, um, tournament fisherman. Sorry, big time trout fisherman, tournament trout fisherman. So I'm like really looking forward to that and see what I can learn from him. So maybe book another handful of guides that I can steal some knowledge and share with you guys.
I thought, I thought you were about to say steal some spots, and I'm like, no, don't say it.
Oh yeah, no, I know those. So most of the guys that I fish with are from down south, and the majority of them they fish like 3 hour boat ride, 2 hour boat ride down. So it's my kayak is not going that far. you know, but some of them are like the same spots that they all fish, and some of them are like their own kind of areas that they fish. So, but they all seem similar. They all have something in common. And what I've learned about Baffin is like, so there's not really tide movement, right? So it's mainly wind and structure, right? So if there's guts, pockets, rocks, that's where the fish are at. That's the secret to Baffin, I feel like. But what I also learned is like different guides work their baits different and they fish different baits and they have a different perspective. They have a different how do you say that a different way of how they see um, how to attack big trout or catch fish and stuff like that. They
Yeah.
all have their own little like thing, like it's their own book, so to speak. So it's pretty cool to learn here and there from them. So I'm really looking forward to this next one. I do want to fish with Peter Deeks. I'll probably try to make that a priority. It's Peter Deeks out of Florida. He fishes the Indian River and he targets big trout. Maybe if I'm lucky, I can talk my buddy into taking me to his secret spot where he caught 330s in one day, and he still didn't win the tournament. That's what freaked me out. I was like, "How do you catch 330s and you don't win the tournament?" I think he got second place. Um,
Uh,
yeah, Brian Neely. So if I could talk him into like, let's catch some big trout, maybe he'll maybe he'll take me with him and we
yeah.
can go try our luck over there.
I think one of the things that you mentioned, different perspectives, and I think that's actually a it's part of what makes fishing fun, because and that's one reason why we for me, for at least for me personally, I like fishing with new people, because I obviously have like a set areas that I know really really well that I like to fish, and I frequent them, and of course on occasion I'll deviate and go somewhere else, but going to these areas and taking people with me and fishing with them, typically I learn something new about like, oh, I never thought about working this area slightly different because they have the person I take, they have their perspective is different and they work it differently than I do, and so they teach me something about that, or like you know um you know when I go there, it's like, oh, the environment has slightly changed from last year, and they're just talking about, oh, this is very similar to an area that I fished before, and this is how I work it now, and like that makes total sense. Let's work it that way, and we catch fish. Um, and I think that's a great way to learn, because now you're kind of sharing, not only sharing knowledge with them, but they're sharing knowledge with you, and it just helps you make the most of every trip. Because again, a good trip or a bad trip is one that you don't learn from. So in this case, you're learning something new, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah, none of that like try to go on a fishing trip with guys and they all try to outfish each other. I used to go on a trip like that. My buddy TJ and man, I miss him though. He was a good fisherman. TJ and Dake. We used to always go fishing and they'd get so competitive. Like if I had the heavy like the hot hand, they like they would literally get upset that I'd catch more fish than I'm like what because we first started fishing together, this is my excuse and I'm sticking to it. We used to drink a little bit. We'll go drink a little bit, then we'll go fishing. So they always make fun of me, like, "Oh, this non-fishing mofo, blah blah blah." But man, it'd take me much to get drunk, so I'm out there trying to cast birds nesting. So they'd make fun of me, and then I guess when I was sober, we go on a boat, and it's like I'm whacking them. They're just like, "Who the heck is this guy?" Like. But my excuse is I had a little too much to drink those fishing trips. But
Yeah,
you know.
it's not a fishing trip; it's a drinking trip.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, but me and TJ, man, he actually introduced me to Christmas Bay Flats and Cold Pass. He I don't know if he still fishes. No, he fishes every now and then in tournaments. But he actually got me into wade fishing those areas and yeah, I learned a lot fishing new areas and some you have to keep moving your feet. You don't want to plant your feet, especially in Christmas Bay. Uh, People died wade fishing in Christmas Bay, so just make sure you move your feet in certain areas.
Just be careful.
Yeah, be careful. Be
Yeah,
careful, guys.
but
Kayak so much better. You don't have to worry
yeah.
about that. You know.
uh, I was actually talking to and I may be speaking out of turn, but I'm going to say it anyway. I was talking to Blake Colburn recently. Are you going on a trip with him?
Blake Colburn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you going?
I did.
Are you going to Los Buzos at some point?
Oh yes, yes, yeah. Okay, sorry, I forgot Blake's. I deal with a lot of Blakes. So
Yeah.
yeah, not yeah. So we're planning a trip. Yeah, you want to come or what?
I unfortunately don't have the PTO for that, but no, I thought that it's interesting because you're saying you're talking to you want to fish with more guides. That one's not exactly a guided trip. Well, I mean, it kind of is a guided trip, but also it's a very exotic trip. Are you excited for that? And when are you going?
So that's not till like the end of the year. So we're trying to go when it's prime
Yeah.
season to catch black marlin or marlin fishing. So we're trying to catch a marlin from a kayak. It's a long shot, but so is catching a sailfish, and I caught a sailfish. So and we're gonna try our luck. I'm being honest. This sounds weird, but I'm mid about like I'm not super excited about going. I'm more mid about going. Because my passion is really tarpon
Mm.
and big trout, and now I just picked up a fly rod. And the only reason I picked up a fly rod,
Oh man, you're gonna get all hoity-toity on us now.
yes, the only reason I picked up a fly rod is because of arapaima, and I want to catch an arapaima. I want to go on that fishing excursion with those guides, you know, all crazy style. And then when you see that big sucker roll, just sit there. And they all catch them with flies. They're not throwing conventional reels at them and paddle tails and fat boys. No, they're catching them on flies. So I am forced to learn the fly technique and fly rods. So I'll be doing a lot of practicing so when the game day does become, I'm well prepared for it and I'm ready to catch me
uh,
an
so
Arapaima.
I know Merrill's saying he wants to catch an arapaima, but he's just doing all this, and eventually he just become an elitist snob. You know,
Oh
he's gonna
no.
be fishing with his pinky out. You know,
Yeah.
thinking he's
Yeah,
better
fly
than everybody.
fishing. Fly fishing the peak, yeah. No, no, no. The only reason I'm picking up a fly rod is so I can catch Narapine. That's it. That's but I mean, I don't know. That's it. That's pretty much it. That's the only
Yeah,
reason why I'm picking up a fly rod.
yeah.
So
But you mentioned tarpon. Are you excited for this coming tarpon season for you? Because I at least compared to last not I guess 2023, you had a really good tarpon season compared to 2024. I don't think you did that well this year compared
you're a
to the
hundred
previous year.
percent. You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct.
sorry
I
sorry to call you out on that,
It
but
was rough, man. I'd go
yeah.
out there and I'd see them, right? So I mean, knowing where they're at and knowing having I realized so uh I'm not talking bad about anybody, but I went out there on a well, maybe I just don't mention their name. So I went out fishing there with a specific guide, and we hit the jetty. And when we're hitting the jetty, I said, "Oh man, there's tarpon over there." He could not believe. He's like, "Dude, there's no tarpon here." The dude fishes that jetty system almost every day or every other day or a lot. And I was able to have the eye to see tarpon. And I was like, look, this is what you're looking for when you see it. And as soon as I said that, he saw a tarpon roll. The dude flipped, was like, oh my God, that was a tarpon. And I was like, yeah, it's like being on the water and having that attuned eye, not just the attuned eye, you're looking for signs. Just like, just different kind of signs when you're tarpon fishing. Shout out to Mark Baker for showing me these signs, and fishing with other guides showing me what they know about tarpon fishing, and just listening to the signs, watching the signs, and then being able to see those signs and put yourself in a position to where those tarpon are at. So I've progressed in that part. Now catching them was rough for me this year. So I was around tarpon, just not catching them. Really, a tuna eye.
I'm sorry.
That's
That's what I
funny.
hear. I know what you're saying, but that's what I hear. Tuna eye. No. I think it's very, yeah. Again, this is comes from the perspective thing where, you know, whatever guide it was, they may never have been looking for tarpon, and they didn't need to because that's not their business.
Right.
It's just a jetty. Um, but it's something completely different. Even for redfish, you know, speaking to like I remember I used to work with Jared Esley over at Dick's Sporting Goods, yeah. Which by the way, if you're looking for a kayak guide, hit him up. Uh, he was telling me like there's a difference between wakes in the marsh whenever you're looking at them on those big open flats, and he can basically spot those those wakes that he's looking for redfish. And like somebody who's inexperienced such as myself, because I don't fish the marsh as much and I don't really target redfish that way, you know how would I know the difference between a redfish wake and a mullet? It's completely different. So that was years ago, and I think now I have a better eye for it. Not that I could 100% accurately to say that's a redfish, um, but it's different. And the same thing with like those tarpon. Whenever you're out there, you're looking for something very very specific, and if you're not actually looking for it, you can 100% miss it. So, but again, that's one reason why you go with new people, because you introduce something new to that guide so that he can kind of understand what to look for now. Just
You know what I do more when you mentioning the redfish? I stand up in my kayak more now when I'm
yeah,
red fishing because I feel like you could see them better. I mean, you
yeah,
can
of
when you're
course,
standing up overlooking them versus when you're sitting on the kayak and you kind of looking at these wakes. It's a little bit different, but when you're standing up looking down at them, you go, oh, that's clearly a redfish, right? So, and then good set of glasses, always help
yeah.
with that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's one reason why I got the links. Just because I've always been a revo person, because I want the kayak to cut through the water. It's fast and nimble. So the lynx, it does the same thing where it's because it's light, it's fast, not as nimble, um, but it gives me the opportunity to stand up whenever I need to, which is not often, but I have the option to whenever I'm fishing those flats. And actually, recently I was, fishing yeah, fishing this back area where I was targeting redfish, and I started fishing on my knees because I just needed a little bit of elevation to stand up and kind of, you know, they were I was more I needed the elevation to look for logs in the water because there's just debris. But every other log that I hit, there was a redfish on it. Whether it was, but I had to be able to stand up to kind of see that. But the reason why I didn't stand up all the way because I was drifting so fast that number one, if I hit something, then I would topple out. But also, I needed to be able to control my steering. So I had to. If I stood all the way up, I couldn't do that.
Well, it's pretty dangerous in the Brazos River, especially by Dow. So you just got to watch those logs. I'm just, there's I remember fishing Dow one time, or we call it Dow, but fishing the logs out there in the Brazos, and I was surprised on how much fish are underneath that debris in that wood.
Oh yeah,
Uh, and there's just tons of fish. I was like, wow, like it was almost every cast, but you had to cast it just right to get underneath the wood or in between the wood, and it's like it was always a strategy to get underneath that and catch those fish. But
yeah.
when you said that, it reminded there's a lot of places that have wood logs, but I was just joking about Brazos River. Yeah, it's probably somebody's tournament spot. Sorry
It
for
probably
this,
is.
but
Everywhere is a tournament spot.
yeah.
Oh, speaking of tournament, uh, you didn't fish the Toys for Tots this year?
Too busy, man.
Too busy? Yeah.
Too busy.
Well, I did. And
Yeah, tell us about it.
I'm gonna call out Jay. I'm just calling out people today. That's my that's a show. So Jay and I fished the Toys for Tots tournament. We had a game plan. He was pre-fishing before. He had a pattern set up, and so basically, there's a drain that he's been working, and with an outgoing tide, we would just sit there. He was sitting there just catching redfish as they came out. Um, Tournament day came around. We set up, and that tide was low. Like it was the tide was still coming out, but it was on the tail end of it, so all the water in that back lake had already kind of flushed out. Um, and yeah, it wasn't good. We were just The sun came up, and I'm like, yeah, there's like no water. There's water still flowing out, but there's no fish on it. So we kind of started working around. I caught a couple rat reds, uh, and eventually we moved up like I think from our original spot we moved up like a mile, and we started fishing logs, and I ended up with like a nice 6 7 pounder doing that. And then it never the bite never really turned on, so we started doing fishing ledges. He lost like a 9 pounder next to the kayak, um, and then at that point, I think it was noon and weigh-in was like at 3. So I was like, we gotta we gotta move because there's a lot of boaters coming in and out now where we were, and we just like it wasn't conducive for good fishing anymore. So we made a move, hopped in. Um, he caught a he fishing up some rocks. He caught like a 6 pounder. It was like it's a three. So the stringer was a three redfish stringer. So I'm like, okay, we just need one more, and we'll get our limit. Um, and um, he got another one, and um, it. Oh no, he didn't. So he was putting his redfish on a stringer, and it flopped out. And I was like, man, I already in my head I
Ouch!
was like, we
Like
have
that hurts.
yeah.
That's
So in
happened.
my head, yeah, no, in my head I'm like, that's two. We just need one more. We can do one more in like an hour because we only had like an hour left. Um, I'm like, oh man. Uh, w- well, we'll see what happens. And along the way back, I picked up like a 6 7 pounder again. I'm like, man, we would have had our limit right there. Um, and I also caught a my next cast. I caught a carp, which is interesting.
Oh
One of
wow.
those like buffalo carp. Like it hit the lure, and I brought it up. It was very interesting. And then we went. I went to the weigh-in. Um, I got best trout, biggest trout for side pot. I was half expecting you to show up at the last minute to knock me out of it. Uh,
I
um,
spared you that day. Just know that
yeah,
I
spared
spared
me
you.
that day. So we ended up
That's,
with we ended up with 14 pounds in fourth place.
oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
It
not
was a
bad.
tough day for everybody. A lot of people didn't turn in 3 fish. But the people who did turn in, I think Ben Maldonado, and I forgot who his partner was. He turned in his 3. He got first place. I think second and third were were 2 fish, but they were just 2 nice fish, you know. So um, so yeah, it was a good tournament. Like we would have gotten first with any other redfish that you know, for that redfish they got. But yeah,
Yeah, if you would have landed landed that 8 pounder, 9 pounder, or stringer the other one,
yep,
y'all would have had first place
yep.
and bragging
But
rights.
yeah, it was a tough day. We covered so much water for those few bites. Um,
Mm.
so uh,
And that's nice though. Like the ones y'all did catch were like healthy upper slots or mid
oh
to
yeah,
upper slots. You know.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and yeah, but it was one of the cool things about that was I know, well, not the cool thing. It was when I was contemplating, like, man, we didn't catch our limit. People probably caught their limit. I'm not, you know, I was contemplating whether to go into the weigh or not. I had this dinky 2.5 pound trout, you know,
yeah.
um, that I caught earlier today, and I'm like, I
This
don't
is not
know.
gonna hold it if Merle's fishing.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I need a 3 to be. Oh, it wasn't even 2.5. It was like 1.9. It was 1.9 pounds. I'm
Oh
like,
wow.
I need something a little bit bigger for because Meryl's gonna come and beat it. But I convinced myself to go to the weigh-in, and I'm glad I did because you know I got some money out of it.
There you go.
um, but man,
Yeah, you made a pretty good chunk of change fishing the saltwater survival series, making on the side pots.
yeah, that's all I do. So
Yeah.
hopefully this year we'll you know, Jay and I won our first tournament this past season, so I guess that's another New Year's resolution is to kind of build upon our success from this past year. Yeah, so this year hopefully we can get a string a couple more wins, get a couple more pieces of hardware up here on my shelf. So
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
I
Yeah, and it's good to build a relationship with somebody, right? A tournament person, and kind of grow with that person, and you know.
yeah, he's on thin ice, so don't lose the fish.
It happens to all of us,
No,
believe
it
it or not.
does. It does.
It,
It's the same tournament that I lost my stringer on with 3 redfish on it. So
or that story, the story. Remember with me in the East West End or East End. You remember you seen that one? It was they shot a live video, and I
no,
came in the way in, and so the thing was like I had this spot, and you got it's called blackjack, so you had to catch a 21-inch trout. So I knew this spot where like I can catch a 20-inch trout like almost any time of the year. Like there's gonna be a 20-inch trout somewhere in this area. So I went there and it was hot. I got there in the morning and just started bam, blazing them, bam, bam. And I think I had like 9 on the stringer. And the 9 that I had was like different ways it could be a 21-inch, but they were all around. So not one was 19 and 3/4. These were all like 20 inches to 21 and a hair over. And I had it on a stringer. And somehow I was fishing and the stringer, because the current's a little strong in that area. So
yeah.
then when that stringer was gone, like I was I felt so defeated. Like I was crushed. I even called my wife, just felt defeated. I was like, I suck. Like what is wrong with me? Keep in mind, winds blowing 28 miles an hour that day. So it was pumping. The wind was pumping that day. I'm in a kayak. I'm competing up against people in boats, and so she's like, "Well, how much time you got?" And I was like, "I don't know, like an hour or something." And she's like, "Well, go catch another one." And I thought about it. I was like, "Yeah, I'll just go catch another one." So I went back, and then I caught a 19 and three quarters. I was like, "That's probably not gonna cut it." And then the next cast, boom, caught one. I was like, it had that tail that it laid on at 21. Even if you pinched it, it was still 21. So I was like, this is it. Boom, stringered it. And I booked it back to my truck, and loaded up everything, took the fish in, brought it to the weigh in. And, they interview you when you bring in your fish. And I told them the story of how I lost, same story I'm telling you guys. And then he puts it on the board. When he puts it on the board and I saw it, I was like, yes, 21. And then he goes, you're the first one to come in with the 21-inch trout. I was like, game over. I won. So there was another guy that came in, I think, after me, like maybe an hour and a half or hour after me, that had one that was right at 21. And didn't matter. He got second place because I brought mine in first.
Yeah.
But but when he put it on that board and I saw him and it was right at that 21 mark, you could just see me go like that. Yes. Like I just knew it. I was like, it was a good feeling though. But I remember the defeat. Like, oh man, I was crushed because a whole stringer full of 20-inch trout drifted off somewhere. But anyhow, oh man, that story got carried away.
No, 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 no. It's a good story. It's a good feel good story of perseverance and a
Yeah,
good outcome. So
yeah, that one got a lot of views too. I think that was one of the most views that they had, like that one little short clip. So it got a ton of views on that one. But that was pretty cool.
maybe I'll find it and post it up on our Facebook page.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be
Speaking
cool.
of which, we try to be live every other Tuesday, but programming note in a minute. Uh, but yeah, we try to be live every other Tuesday. So you can find us at facebook.com/1 last cast podcast. Or, of course, you can find us on YouTube, Twitch, or on any of your favorite podcasting platforms. But the reason why you want to join us live is you can ask us questions and join in the conversation and uh, mainly ask questions. We love hearing your questions and answering them. Or you can email us, one less cast podcast at gmail.com. Um, so Meryl, I know kind of we're at the end of our show for today. I did want to point out that usually around this time, Meryl and I take a break. I know we've this kind of already were on a break, but we usually take a break, and so we'll kind of kick things off. Probably let's say mid February. You want to say that?
I think I'm down to come on after the end of January.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, we'll come
Uh,
on. So beginning of February, we'll revamp some things. Um, I need to start posting blogs because I miss writing. Posting blogs on our Facebook page, which you can go to onelesscastpodcast.com, find all some stuff, some blogs there, all of our episodes, or at least most of our episodes, and some cool stuff on there as well. Um, and yeah, also love to hear what you would like to see from us this coming season for 2025. We do this. Obviously this is a good creative outlet for me and for Merrill, but we also love helping you guys out. So if there's anything specific you guys want to see or hear about, let us know and we'll try to see where we can make it happen. I know at some point we're trying to do a meetup. It's just been life's been crazy. Merrill, there's quite a few people asking for like a fishing meetup. So we'll try to schedule that at some point. Um, but yeah, we do this to kind of help you guys out and talk fishing because we love talking fishing. So yeah, reach out to us and we'll love to hear from y'all. And as always, Merrill, you have any last final sayings for the audience before we knock this out?
yes. If you know a fishing guide that you want me to book, or you want to go with me, or something like that, or any of that, post it like, hey, the name of the guide, and then I'll give my critique and see what I learned from them, or we can go together, whatever, and I'm down for that as well. We can go fish with them. Um, yeah,
Awesome, awesome. Well, before we hop off, definitely want to give another shout out to our sponsors at Knock and Tail Lures. Again, can't say enough good things about them. If you're looking for a soft plastic that has a rattle built in and swims on the fall, go to knockandtaillures.com. Dirty South Kayak Anglers, a Facebook group loaded with fishing knowledge and also just talk kayaking, fishing up and down the Texas coast. Search up DSKA or Dirty South Kayak Anglers on Facebook. Also, Foray Printing, if you're looking for custom merch such as towels, buffs, shirts, or anything like that, look up Aaron on Foray Printing. He'll get you hooked up. And of course, Brady Solesky, if you're looking for real estate here in Houston, whether commercial or residential, you can reach out to her at 281-740-0498 or brittanyselesky@gmail.com. Thanks again, Merrill. For all of y'all guys who are listening, thank you guys for listening. Um, happy holidays, happy New Year. I hope that your resolutions for fishing come true, and we will see you in the beginning of February. You guys have a good one.
take care, guys.